Happy New Year, weirdos. We made it to 2021 or 2022. It's not 2021 all over again, don't worry. Oof. I was nearly a nightmare fuel for a few people out there, I think. Yeah, 2022, we made it. So, yeah, it feels like a while since I've been here. I had a pretty difficult December with illnesses and things, but we made it to Christmas, fortunately. And the plan is that I am going to kick off the first Play Weird stream of the new year with one of my personal hobby resolutions that I've set to myself. Hey, Mick Bluff, Happy New Year to you too, fella. I'm doing great now. If you spoke to me on the 5th of December, you would get quite a different answer. I had a bout of norovirus, an early Christmas gift from my eldest son. Brought that back from his nursery, so that was not pleasant. But I'm back on my feet again. I'm back painting. So I hope you had a good holiday too, Kyle. Hope Santa was good to you. And good to have you, Mulslan. It's a name I haven't seen before. Thank you. Appreciate the well wishes. So, people that have maybe watched the stream before will know that I've been talking for a little while about doing a Hamlin crew. And I have painted bits and pieces from the weird range here. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see I've got Lady Yumi, who incidentally was my most popular model for 2021 when I looked through all of my insights. So yeah, go and take a little gander at her if you haven't seen her already. She's equal parts terrifying and stunning. And I've painted I forget her name. I painted one of the alternate 10 Thunders crew leaders, a Sami Tanaka. There we go. I painted a Sami Tanaka, and I've done some bits and bobs for Hoffman. But my New Year's resolution is to actually get a whole playable crew done, ready to go on the tabletop. And I have all the requisite bits and bobs to do Hamlin, the keyword plague crew. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the entire process of how I approach painting an army or painting a crew, because I do a lot of commission work. And if you just approach painting miniatures for work or for a project blindly, particularly if you have a lot of them to do, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to run into blocks pretty quickly. You need to approach it as much as it is artistic, as much as it is expressive, and as much as it does bring us catharsis. We do need to approach it sensibly and with a little bit of discipline. So I'm going to walk through the entire process. So I have not had a chance to play Malifaux yet, but I will be playing Hamlin. That's the plan. Up until this point, I've just been a painter. So towards the end of getting myself to the tabletop playing, I want to get this entire Hamlin crew done, ready to go, and they're who I'm going to be playing. I have heard that they can be a bit tricky because there is a lot of them, but I just love the style of the crew. I've always gravitated towards sort of like dark gothic fairy tale type stuff, and I love the whole Pied Piper thing that you have going on with Hamlin. So um, yeah, it's one that's really resonated with me, and one of the things I'll talk about a little bit later on, as we're going through the thing, is I've gone back and I've started playing the Dishonored games again to get a little bit of inspiration for painting this Hamlin crew. But like I say, I'll address that a little bit later on. So I've assembled everything here. I've got loads of rats. You can see here. Let's have a better look at them. This one's quite fun. I was thinking that we've got this broken pipe here, and I might do some like gunge or something coming out and squishing this poor rat because he looks a bit like he's flinching away from something. So I don't have the tainted filth box, but I will pick that up eventually for these guys. So this is the Hamlin core box and the Brotherhood of the Rat. So I have, between those two boxes, I've got 12 rats to paint. So one of the things that that you'll notice is there are 4 rat sculpts in the set, and they repeat. So essentially, it means I've got 3 copies of each rat sculpt. So one of the things that you can do right away to create variation when you do have duplicate models is in the basing. So got 2 identical rats here, but I've done the basing a little bit differently. Let's see if there's one where it's a little bit more apparent. So I've got, actually, here's a good one. So it's the rat from the card art, and on the one on the left, he's standing on this little island in the water. There's like a skull and some rubbish around him, trash, if you like. And then this guy's on like a collapsed walkway. You can see the brickwork there, and we'll put a little bit of water effect in here. So I've actually used some of the sewer bases on some of the other models, like here. But the idea with basing these guys in order to create variation, but also to unify what can be quite a disparate collection of models, because you've got like these rat kings alongside the little children here. So one of the things you can do to unify what can be quite a, get that to focus, quite a hodgepodge collection of models is in the basing. You can do it through how you paint them, but you can also do it with how you base them. So the idea essentially is that if we were to line up all the bases together, it would basically create a kind of a vignette. So you have walkways that are still somewhat intact alongside those that are starting to collapse, almost to the point where it's like emerging into like a cavern, like slightly being reclaimed by nature. I've got bits of rubbish, trash. I've got this guy here where he's got gears sitting around about him, like so. But the basing's all done. I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. We'll get a better idea of how successfully that's worked once we've painted things up. And what I've done to prepare these guys is I've primed them and then I've sprayed them all with a bit of dryad bark, because again, to help create a sense of visual harmony with all of these different models, I've sprayed them all with dryad bark. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that to a little bit of the various colors that we decide to use on. And that tint is going to be subtle. It's going to mean that we're allowed to use other colors to make the things look a little bit more distinct. Like, obviously, this lady here, her clothing is a little bit fancier, so she's probably going to have a bit more color to her than like someone like Hamlin. But because we're going to have that dryad bark tint through everything, it's still going to allow everything to harmonize. So we've done quite a bit of planning just with the paint and the assembly there. That's going to help us. We've got this color that's going to tint through everything, that's going to help to unify them. We've got a fairly uniform basing scheme that allows us to be a bit more creative and to create a bit more variation with the duplicate models. Everything's assembled. What happens now? Well, now we're ready to paint them, and now we need to think about the order in which we're going to approach painting them, because although some people maybe just pick a model randomly, or they'll pick one that they like, in my opinion, if you're wanting to get something done in a timely manner, you need to approach it with a degree of discipline. So the idea, and a lot of people do this just with planning any kind of work, not just with painting, but the idea here is to start with the things that are going to be a little bit more arduous, the things that maybe you would put off. And so to that end, we're going to start with the rats. There. And we're going to batch paint them, so we're not going to spend loads and loads of time laboring over these rats. We're going to get them done, and we're going to get them looking good to what people would probably call a high tabletop standard. It's what we're aiming for, and it means then that we can invest a bit more time in the characters that matter a bit more, that we can really take our time with Hamlin and have him looking really impressive. So, enough preamble. It's time to paint some rats. So, if you've ever been unfortunate enough to be around a big group of like sewer rats, plague rats, they're called brown rats. They've unfortunately been painted as villains, but I assure you they're not quite as horrifying as they're portrayed in like film and TV. But if you have observed a colony of rats, they're not all the same color. You get a lot of variations and permutations of color. They tend to be various shades of brown, but you do sometimes get the white rats, the albino mutation, and you can get them in like more red and sandy colors. So I'm mostly going to keep them sort of permutations of brown, but I might do the odd white rat here or there just to keep things a bit more interesting. But anyway, I've waffled enough. Let's answer some questions. Personally hoping can make Malifaux animatics again this year. Trying to think of ideas for one. So what's Malifaux animatics? Is that like a unit type, or is that an event? I'm not really sure what you're meaning there, McBluff. Yeah. mostly. It's not only my idea. It's the way that a lot of people approach them. That for like a crew or a group, a unit, whatever you want to call them, that they are all in the same part of the universe. So it makes sense that if they're all together, that it makes a complete scene because they're all standing together. It's quite a logical way of approaching it. Gothic influences start with a real-world reference point for my colour palette. Titania Crew based on autumn leaves. You select all your colours beforehand. Sometimes I do have quite specific ideas, but that's not always the case. But for these rats, I do have a pretty good idea of some of the colours that we're going to use. So I'm going to start actually loading the palette up right now. Like I said, there's going to be lots of browns, so the scale color range is great for that. They've got loads of different brown colors. So some will be like a very definite brown, some will be a greyish brown, some might tend toward a slightly reddish color. Playware, do you have a rat lady friend in real life? Okay, what do you keep rats, do you? Rats allegedly make great pets. I've never kept one myself, but I've heard a lot of people say that. Animatic, in between storyboard and animation. On every art. Okay. Well, that'll be why I've never heard of that then. Central. Yeah, my wife and I have a very good friend that used to keep rats. I don't think that they live very long, sadly, but yeah, she used to keep a couple. And I know a few people from over the years who've kept rats, but like I say, it's not something that I have ever done. I grew up in New York. Rats are definitely not my friends. Well, yeah, I grew up in the city myself from the south side of Glasgow, so we've had a few run-ins, put it that way, rats and I. But I've never had a problem with them since I've had my cat. In fact, that there was one very grisly incident winter a number of years ago. There'd been quite a bit of snow, and Sylvester. I didn't see him do it, but I knew it was him. There was a in Scotland you call it a burn. You know, I think probably in America you would call it a brook. It's like a little stream that was near the back of my wife's old flat. So naturally, you get water there. There were quite a lot of rats, and I went into the back garden, and lying dead in the snow was the biggest rat that I've ever seen. And it looked as though Sylvester had left it there as a warning to the other rats. It was pretty grisly. So no one else would touch it. So I had to go out with a shovel and get rid of this thing. And you know, whenever you encounter something that makes you uneasy, like the most irrational thoughts come into your head that are funny in retrospect, but at the time are very, very real and very, very frightening to you. And I can remember getting the rat onto this shovel and thinking, what am I going to do if that thing comes alive and runs up my shovel? And Yeah, I think the short answer was, well, I'd be dead if that happened. I would just die. Like I say, it's funny now, but it was a very real fear at the time. Rats always seem a lot bigger when you encounter them in person than they do in reality as well. You know, people will always tell stories about like it was the size of a cat and that kind of thing. It's never just a normally proportioned rat, is it? So we've got loads of brown paints on the wet palette here, all ready to go there. But we do want to have a bit of red also, because these are not regular brown rats. These are Malifaux rats. So they are much bigger, and they're a bit evil as well, I think, by all accounts. Hey! Good to see you, Seabass. Well, it's the month of the rat here. I believe it's actually the year of the tiger this year. I could be wrong. That no, is the ox comes after the rat, isn't it? Don't quote me. I don't know. Okay. Let's paint some rats. So, I think what we'll do is we'll take there you go, it is tiger. We'll take 4 rats, and what we'll do is we'll paint these in the initial color scheme, and then we'll do the next lot. So we're not going to worry about the base. We'll come to that later. What we're going to do is a bit of dry brushing. That brush is a bit of a mess, so I'm going to use this one. I think it's a bit on the large side, but so I've got the Army Painter. Say moderate dry brush. It's huge. Anyway, so I'm going to take some walnut. Thought I don't know a bit of. So I've got a bit of paper towel here. Sorry, it's very white. And what we do is we're going to work that into the bristles, okay? Like so. So we want to we want to brush this against the paper towel until there's very little left on there, like so. Okay, and that's how we're going to keep doing that. And then what we're going to do is we take the model and you start brushing that one, like so. So there's already quite a bit of fur sculpted onto this guy. So the idea is that we're picking out those details. Don't worry if you go a little bit heavy, because we can still tidy them up a little bit later on. We're not going to do just one layer of this as well. We're going to do a couple of different ones. Okay. There we go. And I'm also not going to use a brush this size for all of the dry brushing because it's just too big. So there we go. The brick effect I created using, it's a company called Juila, and they make tiny little clay bricks. So what I did was I rolled up some Malifaux, and then I just pushed the brick in. So what happened was the Malifaux became a bit like the mortar between the bricks. Simple as that. Give me a minute and I'll check the packaging. Don't worry at this stage if you get some of the paint on the base, because we're going to work on that after we've done the rat. I'll just get this dry brush done on the first lot, and then once you're showing it like that, I think we can maybe do it a little bit quicker. So this brush isn't all that great, to be honest. It's shedding a lot. So with dry brushing, we're using a very, very small amount of paint to gently and quickly pick out those details. Now, there's a little bit of a misconception with dry brushing where it's seen to be like lazy painting or just like a quicker way of doing things that you wouldn't do with if you were trying to be a bit fancier with painting your model. But that's just not true, because there's a lot of things that you will still use dry brushing on, because dry brushing is great for creating certain kinds of texture that you can't get by applying normal techniques. So it's still a bit wet there. So you can get these domed dry brushes that, to be honest, can often be quite expensive. Some people will use makeup brushes, which can be quite similar to these. But you can also just use a regular brush, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. It's another way that you can do your dry brushing. But yeah, don't even if you're trying to improve your technique, don't throw out dry brushing. Don't despise dry brushing, because sometimes it's very much appropriate. Okay, bricks. Checking bricks. Oh my God. 148 scale, medium red. That's them there. So you could probably make these from sprue or Malifaux itself, but if someone's already made them, it'll save you a lot of time. And I don't think that they're too expensive. I bought a lot of them, and it was a while ago, so I've not had to restock on them recently. But you do get a lot And that's a bag that's been opened and I've started using. So that was dry brush technique number 1, was the domed brush. So what's the other one? Well, I wouldn't do this with a nice clean brush, a nice new one. But another thing you can do, so I'm going to mix a little bit of Thar Brown with the walnut, because I don't want to take too drastic a jump in colours just yet. So you can mix the 2 of those together. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten my brush out, but I think we could take a bit more Thar Brown than that, to be honest. So what you're doing with these brush strokes is you're flattening your brush out while you're doing that. And then we're doing the same thing here. But what we're doing is going to be a very similar idea to if you were doing normal layer, and we reduce the coverage a little with this lighter. Yeah. So obviously further up here, get a little bit more of that colour. So I'm not worrying about being too neat at this stage. Really want to get some colour and texture into these boys. So we can tidy up things a little bit more as we go. I might even go back and do a little bit of shading and blending, but we're not spending too much time on them, as I say. So a good way to make sure you capture the detail that you want to when you're dry brushing is to dry brush slightly against the grain, a bit like that, and see how that's picking out all that detail there. That side's better, I think. Yeah, so the best advice I can give for that is when you're doing your when you're wiping the brush on your paper towel, is just keep wiping it until there's hardly anything being transferred from the brush onto the paper. That's usually when you're probably good to go. That's probably the best advice I can give, I would say. There we go. And we've already got quite a bit of detail there, and that's just with 2 lots of dry brushing. So that's the initial dry brush on our first couple of rats done. And I think what we'll do next is we'll do a bit more of a brown grey colour. So the same idea again. And let's pick out another 4. A little here in the back there. Okay, so again, going for the permutations of brown, but it's more of a brown grey colour this time. Again, not too worried about being super neat. Colour and texture is what we're going for. And going up the way again, catching all of that. That really nice fur texture and that fur detail on them as we go. There we go. So really quick and simple. And then we will mix a bit of rainy grey in with that to give a lighter colour again. Right, that brush is a wee bit past it, so I'll pick something else up. Got this old Winsor & Newton, so I'm just catching those more raised up areas. So although you're dry brushing, brush control is still important. You're still paying attention to how much coverage you're giving subsequent layers. But texture is important with dry brushing. And there we go. There I did see it at McBluff. Yeah, it's not something I'm familiar with. Okay. And then I think for the last batch, we can do a slightly more reddish colour. But I think I'm going to keep one back, and I'll do him as an albino rat. I don't want to do too many of them like that. So I think we'll start with Dubai brown for that, and then I'll mix in a bit of Thar brown. Yeah, so again, getting as much of that off. When dry brushing, use a texture palette rather than a paper towel. Seems to work better for me. Then again, I usually do the dry brush method. Just it depends on the person. Something like that. I think a lot of tools people use really just come down to preference. It's not necessarily that that one way is better than the other. There are brushes and paints and things that I use on a regular basis that people can't get on with, and vice versa. So I've never used a textured palette for dry brushing. I've always just done it this way. But that doesn't mean that using a textured palette is invalid or wrong. If you're getting great results from that, then carry on. There you go. So it's a sort of richer color that we've got there. That's a very good phrase, Milslan. Actually, yeah, absolutely. It's why I think social media is good for getting motivation and encouragement, and for for just being able to show off something cool that you've painted. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for getting painting advice, because I think it can sometimes leave you a bit like a leaf in the wind, because you look down these groups where people are asking for painting advice, and it's full of contradictory information. So not again that anything that's being said there is necessarily wrong. It's just that I think, especially for people that are maybe just starting out, it can be detrimental, because they can end up at a bit of a block because they're at a bit of an information overload. I think we can put a wee bit more Thar brown into that mix, like so. That's better. Oh. Back again. I think it can be a bit of a double-edged sword at times, social media, because it allows us to connect with painters all over the world to a degree that was never possible before. So it means that a lot of things that were previously seen as niche aren't so niche anymore because these people are all able to connect with one another. So it's allowed a lot of communities to flourish, but the problem equally is that there are no qualifiers for posting on social media. So it means that people that maybe think that they're helping aren't necessarily, can sometimes post information that causing a lot of problems. And of course, I think over the last few years, we've seen a lot about that, haven't we? Like in to a more serious end. There you go. So before we start altering colors too much, I think one of the things that we want to do is to get all those base colors down and then make a decision on anything we want to change. Because like I said, I think we might want to do some shades and some washes on that to try and pick out a little bit more of the detail. But we want to get those base colors nailed down before we do that. But we're going to do an albino rat first. So just straight Thar brown for this. I've still got quite a lot of the other paint stuck in there. I'm going to leave that one. I'll just stick to the smaller brush. So I'm going a bit heavier with this because I want to build this up a bit more. So maybe do a couple of the Thar brown before I move on. Oops, there we go. See that now. Oops. You know what, I'm not overly impressed with that coverage, so I think we're going to paint them all. And then what I'll do is I'll let them dry. We can work on the others while we're waiting for this guy to... Give them a couple of coats of that. So we've got our other rats. What are we doing with them? So we want to do the little bits of skin that are going to be visible first of all. So I said earlier dryad bark was going to be our tint colour. So let's get a load of that on the palette. And get them out the way just now. I'm going to mix some dryad bark, some pink flesh together. And then that's going to go into the legs. Tail. To the ears. And then onto the nose as well. A little bit further down to around his mouth. You can sometimes find that when you're batch painting and things like that, that the first couple can take you a bit longer until you get into the swing of things. Sometimes you need to do a little bit of experimentation to find out what's working and what isn't. But am I going to name the rats? Well, I hadn't thought of that, but I think I'm going to have to now. And do pure pink on top of that. So it's Professor Rattigan, will have you know. That was one of my favourite films growing up. Oh, nice. Nice cheetah France. Sounds like a good haul. Sounds like Santa was good to you. What I'll do is I'll just shade them a little bit while I'm here. Got a Rat King there. Beautiful. I'll take a little bit of black as well onto the palette. Yeah. The Napoleon of crime. I never got to put it up this year, but I actually have a Basil the Great Mouse Detective tree ornament. Very fancy one. A little bit of shadow on the sky. Need to get his tooth done as well. I have no idea about that. I am but a humble painter. I'm not privy to that sort of information. I don't have that clearance. But Playweird may be able to clarify that with you if the Weird Father has deigned it so. So that's some pretty quick work there, and we've almost got our rat ready. Just got a few more little touches that I want to do. And some very nasty teeth. Malifaux rats are like saber-toothed rats. Look at that. Take some other colors. So a good way to speed up your painting is to set your palette before you get started as well. Which can sometimes be a little tricky. You know, it's not as if you need to have everything perfectly planned beforehand. I seldom do, and very often I'll end up changing what I'm doing part way through. You get those teeth to pop. I want this rat to look quite a bit more monstrous than. So I've got the Explorer Society starter set, and as someone that's been painting for a while but just starting to play, those sets are pretty useful because you get a measuring tool and everything like that in there as well, and then you get some models that you're going to be able to use in any keyword for that faction. So you can't really go wrong with those sets. A little bit of white sands. Oh, rats. Then we want to do his eyes. So I'm going to give him the creepy red eyes. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a couple of quick highlights on the fur with a regular brush, and then that'll do me. And that's how I'm going to do all the rats. So I should be able to get each of these rats done pretty quick. And then it'll just be the case of sorting the basin. So I'm going to try and rattle through as many rats as I can to try and prove the worth of the technique. hopefully. I think that's a bit too stark. Let's get rid of that. So with the help of Jess's patented finger eraser. A bit more grey in there. There we go. And just I'm just really doing a little bit of off camera again there. Apologies. A little bit of over brushing. Which is basically dry brushing with a wet brush. Nobody starts out as an exceptional painter, is the thing that you need to remember. You're going to have to paint your first terrible model sometime, unless you have a background in illustration or something like that. I have some dreadful models that I have kept from when I first started because they remind me of how far I've come. So don't be embarrassed. I dare say that your first effort is going to be a lot better than many of ours. So do I get paid in minis for painting on stream? No, I get paid to do this. Weird give me miniatures that they'll want me to paint, but these minis that I'm using just now are my own. Oh. No, it's been good. I get a lot of free reign with what I want to do. They're all open to my mad ideas, which is nice. So yeah. So I think we'll do a quick eye dot, and then that'll do us. A little bit of white. I don't know what you mean by that, Mazamini. Ah, sure, yeah. True. Okay, so that's pretty much going to be I'm doing the rats. The good thing is that they look all matted. I might dirty them up a little bit more. I might do a couple of quick washes or whatever on them once I'm finished basing them. But for now, we're happy with that. That is attainable. The eyes pop really nicely. Fangs look vicious. So we're going to try and rattle through as many as we can on this stream. So let's go. I used to use them. I don't use them so much anymore. Very often I'll just use the thin down acrylic paints, but if I want a transparent cover over something, I will either use contrast paints, or I often use, since I got them recently, artist inks. That's transparent raw umber. So the Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade are expensive for what they are. And they're actually artist inks mixed in with a bunch of other stuff. So you'd be better getting either them or, like you say, the Vallejo inks that you've been using. Right, what's going on here with this lot? Try to remember who's been done in what color. So I think these are the same as that wee guy that we just did there. And yeah, they're the walnut ones, and they are the Dubai brown ones. So fine, good. Right. Up and at 'em. I don't think I've used the Vallejo inks very much, I have to say. But the Liquitex stuff is really good. I just have the primary colors set, but you can get all kinds of stuff. One of the things that I don't like about Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade is that they're formulated so that they run into recesses, which is not something that you necessarily always want with an ink or a transparent paint. Tattoo inks. I've never used them. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone using them, but that's interesting. So the idea, for those of just joining us, or I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, we've got 12 of these wee guys to paint, and they're cool models, but when you're having to paint 12 of them, it can be a little bit mentally exhausting. And I found sometimes with things that are a bit more arduous, a bit tiring, that personally, if you can find a way to put them off, that I'll see you later, Cheetah. So I never saw that. Thanks for joining us. But with tasks that you can put off, I think it just gets easier and easier over time to convince yourself not to do them. So what I'm doing with this crew is I'm starting off with the rats, which, at least in my opinion, are probably one of the more exhausting things to do, since there's a lot of repetition. And then once I can do them, I'm going to reward myself with painting one of the more interesting figures. And then once I've done that, I will paint the 2 Rat Kings, and then I'll paint another one of the more interesting characters. And then I'll do the 2 Rat Catchers. Or the 2 Totems. But you see, what you're doing is you're not doing all of the more arduous stuff. So you're not doing batch painting, batch painting, batch painting. You're rewarding yourself by doing a little interesting thing after you've done the difficult thing, and it then should re-energize you to do the next tedious thing or the next difficult thing. So you've got this systematic approach for doing it, and before you know it, you'll have gotten through a load of the crew. But the good thing about Malifaux is that lower model count. So it means that we shouldn't be too long doing these guys. So Oh, okay. So you're tattoo artist. Ah, that's interesting. I've tried that method before. I don't like it. I prime everything black. I don't like priming white. Yeah, so when I'm doing a big commission, I'll do a similar thing. Like if I'm doing an army for someone, what I'll do is I'll paint a unit or squad, then I'll do a character, and then I'll keep going on like that. So it means that you're giving yourself little breaks. You're changing things up. Plenty of gear changes in there, and I've never had a problem since doing it that way. So like think about it almost like unit character, that kind of thing. So in the game like Malifaux, if you've got like the Hoffman crew, what I'll maybe do is uh, 3 hunters, then do Melissa, then do the what are the wee flying dudes called again? Watchers, then the 3 watchers, and then you do a peacemaker, so on and so forth. Oh, your son does Gundam models. That's cool. Yeah, I've done a few armies for people now. Um, I've also painted single models for people. Into the mix here. Do that. Picking out that weird kind of scaly, wormy rat tail texture that everyone loves. A little bit more in there, I think. Picking out his wee creepy toes. Well, that's cool that your son's a golden demon winner. Get a little bit of shadow in here. So that's for my shadow. I'm just mixing a little bit of dryad bark with black. There we go. that eye nice and sharp. Nice and bright. Get the wee points of reflection in as well. There's a little bit much there, I think. Get a bit more red in there. Then I'm just going to very quickly pick out a few highlights on them. Well, I'm done. Yeah, I'd love to go to Las Vegas Open myself one year. My uncle actually lives in Vegas, so I would be in the quite fortunate position of not having to worry about accommodation. which I understand is a big expense. Am I back? Got you back. Good save. Pulled back from the void once again by Play Weird. Was in Vegas. It's been over 10 years now, I think. I dare say it's a lot. Thank you. Thank you for the welcome back. Play Weird has been working tirelessly on improving those there. Try and tidy them up a bit and make them decent. Just picking out all those little pink bits that rats seem to have. Creepy little hands and feet. Oh. And blend that just a little bit. There's some of that shadow in there. As miniatures go, these guys are pretty small. I still want them looking cool though. So we've got a pretty good little system going here, I think. So these guys shouldn't take us too long, I don't think. Probably won't get them all done on stream today, but making some good progress, I think. Safe to say. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do find this sometimes that with any kind of job, the first couple seems to be puzzling out how you're going to do the thing, and then things seem to start working themselves out, don't they? I tend to. This is my favorite brush at the moment. I sometimes change things up, but size 1 Winsor & Newton Series 7, and for tinier stuff, I'll swap to that. Although these guys are small, I'm not doing anything too intricate with them today, so the one is doing me just fine, I think, for what I want. So if I was to paint 12 rats, the competition standard, I'd be here forever. So generally the way I'll use the brush is let's see. So if I'm base coating, I'll load it up to here. If I'm doing finer work, and I'll just load it to there. So essentially your one brush is several different sizes of brush. So I guess, yeah, you kind of count that as shaping the tip, but I don't, in terms of shaping or like actually trimming the brush, the most I do is I'll cut the guide hair off. I don't get on with the guide hair. Winsor & Newton are great. I use Broken Toads a lot as well. They're a bit expensive though. I beat my brushes up quite a bit. I tend to go through them a lot. So I've started trying these. Ken Bromley. Artist's Value. Because these are £3 or £4 each. So I figure if I'm beating my brushes up a lot, I should have brushes that are more sort of economy value, if that makes sense. So that's why they're that white dot light. It's going to bring him to life. Get that. Cheeky little glint in his eye. Highlight the teeth. And then a little bit of work on the fur. Nice sharp lines around the eyes are going to help to pull focus to there. That's another one. Never heard of those shoulder brushes. So this is the last of the brown grey rats. And then from here, probably do some of the Dubai brown. And then that'll be the majority of them done. This one's got his wee mouth up, having a scream. Make sure to get all that covered too. His other foot's underneath the gunk, so that's fine. that's. I mean, I wouldn't be willing to pay that on a brush. But again, back to that thing in it that different strokes for different folks and all that. Yeah, I'd be happy to, like, I would maybe try one out, but I don't see myself using them regularly. I'm very much of the tools, not jewels persuasion. Blame the hipsters. I'll do a little highlight on the pink now. Get a bit of shade on him. Yeah, thanks for joining me, Moslan, and have a good day. We'll get some pictures up on the socials, etc. So hopefully you'll get to see them. I think we'll get a little bit of pink on that tongue. Make it stand out a bit more. So what I'm thinking I might do, sort of altering my plans ever so slightly, is I think I might do a little bit of work on the bases just to see how everything sits alongside the colours that I've picked. So, because this will be a batch of 4 done. So rather than racing through, we'll see how they're working, how everything's looking, and then that'll actually help out with the whole process, because it'll help me hit a bit of a stride, I think, seeing that everything is, that the idea has worked, if that makes sense. The ear's a little bit of a highlight. Top of the head. Let's get those eyes to really pop. Okay, and just a little reflection on the eye to do. He's looking pretty good, I think, considering how quickly we threw them together. So we've got about 30 minutes left, so let's see what we can do at the bases, so we can get a picture of how these guys are looking. I don't think I did his teeth actually, the highlight. Okay, so I think we'll do we'll do a little bit of goby brown. Need to clean that. Because that's a kind of oily, olivey brown. It looks a bit green in it, so should work quite well with what we're going for. Kind of gross sewer environment. I think we'll make the I think the pipe should be like a cast iron, so get some other colours on the palette. Gonna make it all rusty. Might do some on copper with a bit of rare degree and the like on. Hey McBluff, so we've got 4 rats fully painted, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do some of the bases just to see how things are looking all done and dusted, but this is where we're at. So just having a go at doing some of the bases. So we're going to do some rusty pipes, some verdigris pipes. Some are going to be covered in gunk. But let's just go ahead and do that. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how they've turned out. So we've got all of them at least partially painted, and we've got 4 completely done, which I think is not bad. Everything goes a little bit slower when you're streaming, so I'm not 100% sure on how long everything actually is taking, but I'm pretty happy with the process for painting the rats. I think we'll be able to get them done in a reasonably efficient time frame. So I think it's only right that we should name them at the end. So apologies, hairdryer. Well, that sounds like it's on its last legs. Jeez, oh. So just lots of streaks of rust. And the nice thing about this is that we can be quite messy with it too. So you want your paint to be quite watery when you do this. We'll do some splodges of it as well. So imagine what's happened is this pipe's corroded away. Blob one out here. Some of the rust's going to pull around the bottom of it too. I think so. And we'll put a bit of Troll Slayer orange into that as well. Some more streaks. Break them up a bit as well. Some a lot of the moisture is going to accumulate around the bottom of the pipe, so you're going to have heavier corrosion there. You're still going to have some at the top, so let's get that there. Stipple some moisture spots on as well. Rust also evokes this idea of decay, which is also synonymous with plague, so it's a very fitting visual indicator for any time that you want to convey death and decay. Don't be afraid to beat up your brushes when it comes to stippling. Don't be afraid to use a good brush as well. A lot of people tell you to keep your bad brushes for stippling, but if you want your stippling to be neat, you need a brush with a good point on it. So, also using your paint in different levels of opacity as well. That's also going to help you to get a lot of variation. And remember that you can blend with stippling as well. So it becomes a little bit like Impressionism then, where you're clustering together vaguely similar tones to create gradients. It really is a lot like normal painting, but it's just a slightly different application. But everything else that you know about painting still applies to good stippling. So you can get stippling with a lot of texture on it, stippling that's very smooth. It just depends on what you want to go for. That's looking good, isn't it? That's looking like a rusty old bit of pipe. I think we need to get a bit more of the brighter orange onto it though. Some more streaks. Right, that's looking pretty good. We've got a little scene going on there as well, which is nice. murky green water, I think. Some nocturne green is in order. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I've done the water effects, I think we're going to have a load of leaf litter and trash stuck around that to really make it look like a sewer, really sell that effect, you know. I get a bit of green in here as well. And then quite a rough stipple with this, with my dry brush. So just get some dirt in there. That. I've also got some moss tufts. I think a couple of bits of moss here and there are probably going to be appropriate. We just want to make sure that we don't go overboard and clutter it too much. Want it to look convincing though. I'm just going to do a bit of a darken some of the areas of this down. It's going to push the contrast a bit, but it's also going to push the focus towards the middle a bit more. Okay. So dry that off, see how it's looking. And then we'll always a black lip around the base. I'm gonna maximize that contrast. I think that's looking pretty good myself. If we can get all the rats looking like that. So what did we have now? We did a dry brush of Gobi Brown. Over everything. Give it that sickly mustardy. There's actually a couple of bits that need a bit of touching up. Probably. Before we go any further. Yeah, a couple of wee bits there as well that I've missed around the mouth. And we've got, I think we can do a little bit more on that actually. Just up here, intensify it a bit more. Hopefully you can see how on this guy there's now actually comparatively little of that dryad bark left visible, but it permeates everything. And that's what we mean when we talk about a tint colour. I think we could do a little bit more of those bricks. Yep, so we are out of time, but we've managed to knock the base colours into our rats. We got 4 finished, and we know where we're going with the basin. So time-wise, I think that you could realistically get these rats done in about 12 to 16 hours using the methods that we've done here, taking about an hour each rat, give or take. like we said before as well, once you've done a couple of them, you start to hit a bit of a stride because you know what you're doing. So when it comes to batch painting, if you do find that the first couple are taking you a bit longer, don't be discouraged. Try and push through, because that's normal. Everyone gets a little bit of that. But there you have it. One beautifully fully painted rat. So I think some leaf litter. That's why I've not done too much. I just knocked some gross colours onto the earth here. I think some leaf litter, because we're going to do some water effects. We don't want too much going on. And then maybe I'm thinking some like discarded newspapers or pamphlets or something like that. I think that might be quite interesting. Not on all of them, but one of them here or there. But the cast iron pipe looks good. Little rat looks great, especially considering it was a very quick paint job. I think having our paint set up on the palette ready to go made a really big difference for us. But there you have it. I'm committed now. We're going to do this crew. That is going to be my New Year's resolution. I think ideally I would like to have most of them done by the end of the month. So probably what I'll do is I think I'll try and get some more of the rats done before the next stream, or at least get them done up to they're looking like this, and then we can maybe do a bit more of the decorating of the bases together. I think that would be a good shout. But the other thing is, when you're painting a big project like that, and you do feel yourself starting to fatigue, have a palette cleanse, go and do something else. So what we might do, if I do feel that I'm starting to get a bit, is we've got the title Jackdaw here to paint. Might do him. One of Hamlin's fellow outcasts, no less. But I'm afraid that is it from me for this evening. I think we're having a quiet week in terms of streams this week, aren't we, Kimberly? So I don't think anyone else is on until Monday. Yep, when Doug, aka Guslado, will be back. And I'm sure he will have something new and exciting for the new year for you. So that will be on the 10th of January. And I will be back on the 12th at the same time, same place, and we're carrying on with the plague keyword. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.